Well, hello, and welcome to Live Late Night Lattes and Laughter with Lady Laura. And I hope you guys are doing well tonight. I hope you are doing well. Listen, we're going to get right into it tonight because this one right here, yeah, what a lesson, what a lesson, what a lesson. And if you have your Bibles, tonight's going to be like a little study. Tonight is 2 Corinthians 12, chapter 12, verses 6 through 10, and it's talking about Paul. Paul and that thorn of his. And I've got one too. Paul's thorn and my thorn. So the painful thorn. Let me get L. Hey, Teresa. Hey. So let me get this for you. 2 Corinthians 12, 6 through 10 says this. I have plenty to boast about. This is Paul talking. I have plenty to boast about and would be no fool in doing it. But I don't want anyone to think more highly of me than he should from what he can actually see in my life and my message. I will say this, because these experiences I had were so tremendous, God was afraid I might be puffed up by them. So I was given a physical condition which has been a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to hurt and bother me and prick my pride. 3 different times I begged God to make me well again. Number 9, each time he said, no, but I am with you. That is all. That is all you need. My power shows up best in weak people. Now I am glad to boast about how weak I am. I am glad to be a living demonstration of Christ's power, instead of showing off my own power and abilities. Since I know it is all for Christ's good, I am quite happy about the thorn and about insults and hardships, persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. The less I have, the more I depend on him. Woo! Let me tell you something. Paul tells us a bit about himself by saying that there's an ongoing problem that helped him not to be proud. How many of you have an ongoing problem that keeps you in check? Let me go here. If I boasted about myself, it wouldn't be just foolish talk. I would be telling the truth. But I don't want anyone to think that I am great because of the things they have seen me do or heard me say. In fact, to keep from becoming full of myself, I was given a problem that has been like a painful thorn. Hey, Maritza. I asked the Lord 3 times to take this problem away, but every time he said, my grace is sufficient. My grace is all you need. When you are weak, my power shows up best in you. So now I am glad that I have this weakness because it helps me to rely even more on God's power and protection. For when I feel weak, I am actually strong because of God's power in me. So the question is, can any good come from the things that frustrate me? Can any good come from the things that frustrate me? And how about this? If you have stood on a thorn or had a sharp stone in your shoe, you would know that every step hurts until you stop and take it out. We'll wait. It'll until you take the pebble, the rock, the thorn, whatever is in your shoe. It's going to hurt your foot until you take it out. Paul tells us about the thorn that kept bothering him. Stay with me because I'm going somewhere. We know that it wasn't an actual thorn, but a problem that pricked and irritated him all the time. Yet Paul's problem didn't keep him from doing God's work. Type that in. Paul's problem, your problem, my problem is not going to keep me from doing God's work. It actually helped him depend more on God's grace and power. He could have been proud of who he was, but instead, his thorny problem helped him to humbly trust God for strength and wisdom every day. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Romans 8:37. So let me tell y'all, and this is an amazing book. Look, amazing stories for young believers. And we're not so young, but it's an amazing book. So here we go. What thorn do you have in your flesh or your spirit or your whatever? I'm just going to ask you this. What thorn, hey Evelyn, what thorn do you have that keeps you irritated or frustrated? I'll wait. What thorn keeps you? Because I have a lot. There's one in particular, the lesson, this lesson hit me because there are so many things that keep me going back to Jesus. I don't know about you, right? But there are some things that keep me going back. One is my weight. I will lose weight and then I'll gain it back. I'll lose weight and I'll gain it back. My skin aggravates me and it irritates me. Some days it's great, some days it's not, but it's inherited. My dad and mom both have acne or had bad skin until they were 72. So my mom, her face is clear now. And my dad, he still has pock marks and he will forever have that. And I've passed it on to my kids. Tony doesn't have that. So what aggravates you? You said disappointment. Anybody else? That's the other thing that aggravates me. You know what aggravates me is how we as women and men and believers, we don't tell the truth. Nope. We don't dare show our weaknesses. We don't want anybody to know. We don't want anybody to know how we're really doing. Because then you're going to look at me differently. No, I'm not. Now I'm going to say, wow, you have issues and concerns and worries and anxieties like I do. But we don't want to say that. I did a thing today and the thorn in my side is, as a little kid, because I was an only child. And that's not a bragging thing like Paul talks about. That's just like, this is what it is. I'm an only child. I just had my parents. I just had God. God was like the one. As a kid growing up, he was the one for me. He was always with me. Whenever I needed anything, whenever I needed to talk about my parents, I didn't have any siblings, right? So it was me and God. So my relationship with God is pretty tight because that's all I had. So let me go back to my thorn. My thorn is food. My thorn is skin. My thorn can sometimes be hair, but not today. It's a good hair day. But there are thorns that we have, and my parents always taught me to talk about it. Not everybody does that. And so that's a thorn in my side or a thorn in my flesh that and here's the killer part. Y'all that got thorns, we that have thorns, we see it. Y'all hiding. We see it. We see it. You trying to hide and we see it. And it ain't none of my business, but I see it. And then we don't want to talk about it. All right. So I wrote this book. Here it go. Did she say that out loud? And the thing is, my thorn, my other thorn, because I have many, but that one, this thorn right here, the book, is a when you make a promise or when you tell God something, you best believe you better hold on to it. You best believe you better stick with it, what you told him, because he's going to hold you to it. I told him I was going to write it for him to get it off of me, because as pastors' wives, we go through a lot of stuff. And you women in leadership and women in general, people in general, believers, we go through some stuff. Part of the journey of being a believer, being a disciple of Christ, is you're going to go through a lot of stuff. And when you do, count it like Paul as a privilege. It's a privilege. So here it is. I say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a bestseller. And God is like, you said it was for me, and you said it was for the one person. Which one is it? So a lot of times, I'm about tired of the thorn. Do you understand that just like y'all don't want to look at yourselves, and sometimes I don't, that's all I do. I was talking to Phoebe, I'm just going to help you out, Phoebe, where you are, perfectionism is a problem of mine. It's a thorn, perfectionism, because you want to be perfect. You want to get it done right. And so you overthink, you overanalyze. That's a thorn. You overthink, you overanalyze. And that goes back to the prayer part about God. Go to him. Go to him. Be still. Listen. And then move forward. So I'm going to be just as crystal clear tonight. I went and taped 4 TV shows today. Okay? I'll be on TV. Be on cable and Facebook for the next month. Okay? And in the meantime, you know, we were talking about how as writers, Sharon had us, I don't know who this is for, but listen up. If you want to be a writer, being a writer is not an easy task. Being an author is not an easy task. But that's number one, everybody ain't going to like you. Everybody ain't going to like your book. And what you think it's going to be, it might not be, which is a thorn. Because in your head, in your mind, you think this is how it's going to be. Well, it's not. It's not. So then you have to look at yourself. Really look at yourself. You got to pray. And you got to really look at yourself and see what is it. And so God knows you. Put that in the comments. You know that God does know you, right? He knows your attitude. He knows your mind. He knows your heart. So there are 2 things that God talked to me about. One, when I was much smaller, I had a bad attitude. I knew how to cover it, but I had a bad attitude. Wasn't nice. Number 2, he wants to make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself. That you don't think too highly of yourself than you ought to. A lot of us are really good at things. Phoebe is super smart. Maritza speaks Spanish and can cook. Evelyn can cook and do hair. Teresa can write. A lot of us have issues where we're really good at it. And if we're not careful, my husband can sing. My husband can preach. He can really holler when he needs to. He can tune it up. But if you're not careful, yeah, God put something on you to remind you that he's God and you're the child. See, he's told me on a couple of conversations that he's God and I'm Laura. Oh, he said that to me a couple times. And we do, but we don't want to admit that. Oh, no. Admit it. Some things you know you're good at. And if God gives it to you, like you want him to give it to you and bless you with, you won't be able to be handled. Let me say that another way. We won't be able to stand you. Thorn. The thorn in my side is, I thought it was going to be one way and it didn't. Let me give you my thorn tonight. Let me give you my thorn. I have this book that it's really hard work. Do you know how much work it is to market this thing and talk about this thing and try to sell this thing and try for people to buy this book? Do you know that when you love the hardcover better than the print, do you know how hard it is to deal with that? Really? Do you know it kills me when folks say, "Oh, you're such a good writer." Okay, maybe I am. Maybe I am. But what good is that if nobody is interested in your book or in your writing? So let me say why I say that. Your thorn. God also wants to see how obedient you are or how obedient you are going to be. So he puts something on you to worry the bejeebies out of you so that you can stay focused. And even then, we don't stay focused. What thorn are you dealing with? What thorn is irritating you? What thorn is frustrating you? And how many times have you asked God to take it away? He also that's me. Sometimes God checks you and keeps you with a thorn so that you can be focused on him and stop looking at everybody else and doing that comparison spirit. That's what I was going to talk about tonight with my group. But guess what? I'm going to be just as transparent. Phoebe came. And that's great because it let me know where I stand. And it also shows me what I have to do. But even farther back than that, it tells me I have to lean and depend on God. Just like Paul says, he gave me this so that I wouldn't get the big head. He gave me this so I wouldn't get beside myself. He gave me this so I could focus and depend on him. Boom. That's what, God doesn't want any other gods before him. No idols, no people, no things, no money, no nothing. So when I got that, I'm like, wow. So God said, yep, you were on 4 TV shows today. Ha ha ha. But ain't nobody at your thing. What? You may have been on 4 TV shows that reach millions of people. But there's some other things I need to work out in you. And that's my devotional for today and tomorrow. It says some things you're going to have to work for. So faith without works is dead. So God is like, how much you want this? Because you said you wrote it for me. And God, the relationship that I have with God, he likes to remind me. He's not reminding me like we do each other, I told you so. No, he's just gently reminding me, what did you tell me, Laura? Who did you do this for? So I sent Phoebe, and then there's Leona, but I sent Phoebe. Pour into her. How many of you, God has told you to do something, and it's like a 2 thing. He's told you to do something, you haven't done it, and then he's niggling and he's just poking away at you. You've got this thorn, and you can't get rid of it. Tony talked about it last night on Bible study. There are some things that God deals with you on, but if we're honest, because you go to God over and over again, He's given you the courage and the strength. I can do all things through God. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Got a little tongue-tied. But we have to also understand that sometimes we got to really go to God. We got to really go to God. We got to really go to God. He wants us to depend on Him. But we have a tendency not to. We have a tendency to do it our way, the way we want, the way we think it needs to be done. And so He has to just give you a little to remind you. Yeah. And then you have to work back up to it. I already told you guys about the book, how it had some mistakes, so we took it down and then we brought it back, right? And the hardcover is amazing. And I love it. But God had to remind me that was His idea to take it down and put it back up so it would sell and be a bestseller. Not me. It wasn't my idea. Because my idea was get it out so I could be a bestseller, not Thorn. What is your thorn? What do you deal with that you have to deal with? Because if you didn't, you'd be a piece of work. If my skin was clear, no matter if I'm fat, if my skin was clear and smooth, I've been dealing with this since I was 15 years old. And when I get stressed, it really flares up. Can't get rid of it. Esthetician, dermatologist, medicine, topical, soaps, toners, retinol, you name it, glycolic acid, hyaluronic acid, you name it. That's a thorn. It just drives me crazy. My weight, I don't give it to God. I don't. I give it to Him and take it back. I give it to Him and take it back. It's a thorn. So I'm going to say like Paul. I really am going to be like him. He says, I have plenty to boast about. I am smart. I am beautiful. Go on and say it about yourself. You know, when Tony had the stroke, I'm going to use him as an example since he's my husband. When Tony had the stroke, we were both, after he had the stroke, he had he had the physical therapist, he had the occupational therapist, and he had a speech therapist. And when we were in rehab, they were getting him up. So he was walking. He was learning to walk all over again. He was learning to brush his teeth and do everything that is a necessity. But then the speech therapist said, we're going to have him do a Bible study. We're going to have him preach. Okay. So me as the wife sat in there while he sat on the stool, or not the stool, the bench of the organ, and he did a lesson. And I'll never forget, the speech therapist said to me, oh, he did. We have it on tape. We still have it on tape. It's on my phone. Oh, your husband, Tony, did such a great job. Mr. Simon, they didn't call him Simon. We were like, call me Tony. Tony did a great job. What do you think, Mrs. Tony? What do you think? And so I said, oh, he was great. He was great. But let me show you what he used to do. So I pull up the video and I show the 3 therapists. And they're like, oh, we have work to do. That was a thorn for Tony for a little while. Because here's the thing. He remembered, and I remembered how great he was. And we both were wondering, is he going to get back to that? And he has. The glory of God. This happened for the glory of God. Because only God could bring him back to where he is. So what am I saying? thorn in your flesh. For though I might desire to boast, I will not be a fool, for I will speak the truth. Speak the truth. Stop telling tales, because they're going to catch up to you. You boast, I will not boast except in my infirmities. For though I might desire to boast, I will not be a fool. I will speak the truth, but I refrain lest anyone should think of me above what he sees or hears from me. Think about it. I want you to get off here tonight and think about, what thorn do you have to keep you in check? What thorn that you've asked God to remove to keep you in check? Because that was a piece of work. Thinner and beautiful skin and awesome hair. Unless I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, because Paul got a gazoobies of them, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me. Buffet means to beat you. Lest I be exalted above measure. I just truly believe this is going to be good one day. But right now, God is like, let me talk to you. Okay. Concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in this face. I take pleasure in this weight. I take pleasure in this hair. Now, I really don't want the weight, but I'm coming back to that. I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions. Be grateful you're getting persecuted. You're doing something right. In distresses, for Christ's sake, for when I am weak, then I am strong. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. What else is God telling you when you got this little thorn? You know what else he's saying? Depend on me. Lean on me. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. That's next week's trust. We back to trust. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. He's going to direct you on the way you should go. Not to the left, not to the right. Go straight forward. Go forward. Move forward. But you know the new version that Tony and I have been on for a long time? The Living Bible says, in everything you do, put God first. Put Christ first. In everything you do, put God first. He will direct your path, meaning he's going to guide you. And then he's going to crown your efforts with success. So what is God? I talk about this every week, y'all. What is God telling you to do? What is God telling you to do? Crystal Evans-Hurst blew me away with write it down. Many ideas, many things that I have had for lattes have died on the vine. This is her words exactly. Died on the vine because I didn't write it down. Write it down. What is God telling you to do? Write it down. Do it. Get it done. Don't think more highly of yourself than you ought to, because some of us do. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to say it. And that's what's going on. But God wants us to depend on him like a child depends on his father, on his daddy. God knows exactly what he's doing, and he's going to get the glory out of your life. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In everything you do, put God first. He will direct your path, and he will crown your efforts with success. I don't know who that is for today, but I know it's for me. This thorn that I have, I'm going to work with it. And I'm going to keep on going to God about it. I'm going to keep on going to God. I'm going to keep on going to God. Like the woman in Luke 18 who worried the judge. I'm going to keep on going to God about it. And I'm going to keep on depending on him. A lesson that we learned this week, Tony and I, and I'm just going to be transparent about it, is we need to pray before anything we do. Any business action, transaction, personal, kids, you need to go to God. You need to go to God in prayer. You need to be quiet. You need to listen and then take action and then transform after you have heard from God. He'll work it out for you. I promise you that. Trust God. Give him everything. 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 Give God everything. He'll crown your efforts with success. I bought my soapbox, y'all. I had to get that out. Just as much for you. Ooh, it's even more for me. I love you guys, and I thank you for being with me. And I'll see you next week, God willing. Have an awesome weekend. It's almost Christmas. Merry Christmas. And remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. Don't get beside yourself. It's his birthday, not ours.